Thank you, Tammy, for hosting me. Thank you very much. So what I really want to talk about tonight is basically to warn America not to go down the same Islamic route that Europe, particularly so Britain, finds itself on at the moment. Britain is almost on the point of no return, or no peaceful return. And when Samuel Huntington wrote his book, presciently entitled The Clash of Civilizations, he referred there to something that he called the illusion of permanency. And this is very important, I think, because no one in Britain expects tomorrow to be any different to today, or this time next year, or the year after that. No one really expects anything to change in the next 15 or 20 years. But Britain is going to change greatly in the next 50 years, precisely because of what has been going on over the last 50 years. And the reason, of course, is mass immigration and Muslim demographics. Now, when I talk about the illusion of permanency, this illusion is easy to maintain when the British are racially as they have been for hundreds and hundreds of years, and when the Muslim population was only numbering in the tens of thousands, which it was just back in the 1960s. But that's no longer the case. Tony Blair's government opened the doors to Britain completely, wide open to mass immigration. And he did it with the express intention of changing the traditional culture of my country. And the cat was let out of the bag by one of his speechwriters, a Mr. Andrew Neither, who actually admitted that their primary goal was to absolutely destroy traditional cultural Britain and to rub the noses of the right wing in multicultural diversity. Well, they've been very successful. You know, England is a tiny country. It makes up less than 1% of the world's habitable landmass, contains just 1% of the world population. It also has a no questions asked welfare state. Now, this enables immigrants to live in far better surroundings than in their own countries. So when a tiny little country like Britain, relatively rich, overly generous, invites the billions from the third world to enter, they're going to enter. And then they're going to swamp it. And we have already been swamped. Sam Solomon wrote a book about Islamic immigration into the West and jihad called The Trojan Horse. And he described the jihadist ideology behind this. The liberal left denounced Sam Solomon as some sort of racist, some sort of Nazi, but the Islamists are very, very aware of the power of infiltration into the West. Abu Basir is a London-based spiritual advisor to Anwar al-Islam, which is just one of a number of jihadist organizations based in London. Now, he had this to say about Islamic immigration into the West. One of the goals of immigration is the revival of the duty of jihad, an enforcement of power over the infidels. Immigration and jihad go together. One is the consequence of the other and dependent upon it. The continuation of one is dependent upon the continuation of the other. Or how about Colonel Gaddafi? We have 50 million Muslims in Europe. There are signs that Allah will grant Islam victory. Without guns, without swords, without conquests, the 50 million Muslims in Europe will turn it into an Islamic continent within the next few decades. Now, these are very honest and forthright statements of very clear intent by people who mean what they're saying. Goes right over the heads of leftist politicians, though. We have a former Labour minister, Tony Benn. Now, his view on this is slightly different. He said, "This diversity provides a delightful snapshot of life in multicultural Britain. The world today is such a small place, which makes us so lucky to have so many different people from so many different backgrounds. Multicultural Britain is now here to stay, so isn't it great that we are all finally learning to live alongside each other. Now, this naivety is astonishing, bordering on the criminality, but not all on the excuse me, not all on the liberal left think along these sort of lines. There's a writer for the Salisbury Review, Patricia Morgan. Now, one of her left-wing friends some years ago was expressing disquiet about Islamic terrorism in Britain, and she actually asked him why he had been so keen on getting as many Muslim immigrants into the country as possible, and he replied, "I was trying to make the revolution." So while it had not been possible to storm Buckingham Palace and to set up Soviets in Westminster, we could change the population and supplant the hated other. Now, the hated other is me. It's my family. It's my community. It's my people, and it's my country. Change the population and supplant the hated other. What a wicked and treacherous notion this is. And they succeeded. If you want to look to the future of my country, you only have to look at our primary schools. In London, white British school children now account for only 20% of the school population. And I'll say that again, 20% of the school population. And this is happening all over the country. All England's other schools are going precisely the same way, in precisely the same manner.